Okay, so today we're going to talk about something that's really shaking up the world of AI. Seriously, the whole game is changing. It's not just about building bigger and bigger models anymore. The race has pivoted to something, well, something much more strategic. Let's get into it.
That is the perfect place to start, because you've absolutely nailed the shift that's happening. It feels like just yesterday every headline was about who had more billions of parameters, right? Who had the biggest brain. But that's not the main event anymore. And you're spot on to call it a slowdown, but it's not because we've hit a wall. This is a deliberate, strategic pivot, and honestly, it's all about cost. The money and resources it takes to train these giant models from scratch has become just astronomical. So the whole industry is shifting its focus from just raw size to, actual utility. How do we make these things more reliable, more efficient, and genuinely useful in the real world? And these two problems right here, they're the main reason for that shift. First, you've got the knowledge cutoff. A model trained in 2023 has no clue what happened 5 minutes ago. It's frozen in time. Then, you've got the really tricky one, hallucination. This is when the AI just makes stuff up, but says it with complete confidence. Put those two together, and you get a massive trust deficit. I mean, you can't have a tool in a hospital or on a trading floor that might just confidently lie to you. No way.
So what's the solution? How do you fix that? Well, it's actually a pretty elegant idea. You give the AI a library. Instead of trying to force it to memorize the entire world, which is impossible and instantly out of date, you give it a library card. You teach it how to look things up in a dynamic, constantly updated source of information.
Now, the official name for this library card is Retrieval-Augmented Generation, or RAG for short. This is the key piece of tech we're talking about, and the most important word here is grounds. It forces the AI to base its answer on real, specific, verifiable information that it just pulled up. This gives you a factual audit trail for every single response. It's all about building a system you can actually trust.
So how does this RAG thing actually work under the hood? It's actually a pretty logical four-step process. First, the system takes a huge pile of documents, let's say all of a company's internal reports, and it chops them up into small, digestible chunks. Step 2, it turns those text chunks into a kind of numerical fingerprint, what we call embeddings. Then, when you ask a question, the system searches for the document chunks with the fingerprints that are most similar to your query. And finally, this is the magic part. It hands both your question and those specific chunks to the LLM and basically says, okay, answer this question, but only use the facts I just gave you.
This really gets to the core of the architectural shift. We are moving away from what's called parametric memory. That's where all the knowledge is kind of baked into the model's core programming. It's hard to see and it's a nightmare to update. We're moving to non-parametric memory, where the knowledge lives in an external database. It's explicit, it's transparent, and you can update it in real time. It's the difference between what an AI knows deep down versus what it can look up.
Exactly. This technology is incredibly powerful. And your question? That gets to the very heart of this new AI arms race. Because if the core AI model is becoming a commodity that anyone can use, then the real, sustainable advantage, well, that's in the library. And this brings us to what everyone is calling the great knowledge race. The competition isn't just about having the smartest AI anymore. It's about who can build the best, most exclusive, most proprietary library of information. It's about building a knowledge barrier that your competitors just can't get over.
And the term for that barrier is a knowledge moat. See, as open source models get better and better, just having a good AI isn't special anymore. The new moat, the new competitive advantage, is a company's unique private data. I mean, think about Bloomberg GPT. It was trained on decades of proprietary financial data that nobody else has access to. No one can just copy that. That is a deep, wide, defensible moat.
So let's take a look at the big players and their strategies. Google, for instance, is turning its entire search engine into a giant RAG system, leveraging its insane speed at indexing the world's information. Then you have xAI, which is building its own alternative knowledge base, with a secret sauce algorithm deciding what's true. OpenAI is all about using your past conversations as a memory to make its agents smarter. And then you've got Apple.
Apple's playing a different game. They're the cautious one in the room, and their research is a huge counterpoint to this whole race. They've shown that even the most advanced models today totally fall apart when you give them complex logic problems. So their take is, hey, why are we racing to bolt on a bigger library when the engine itself can't really think straight? For a company like Apple, which is all about reliability, fixing that core reasoning flaw is way more important than just having the most data.
But this whole race brings us to a really important question. As these tech giants build their own private, walled gardens of information, what's the cost for the rest of us? What's the price we all pay for these private versions of the truth?
There's a phrase experts are using, and it's a chilling one: the balkanization of truth. Think about it. It describes a future where that shared foundation of facts that we all kind of agree on starts to crumble. And in its place are these competing, corporate-controlled versions of reality.
And this happens through a dangerous feedback loop called locked-in knowledge. It works like this. A company uses its private data to build a better AI. That superior AI attracts more users. The data from all those user interactions gets fed back into the system, making the private data set even better and the AI even smarter. Meanwhile, the open source community is left training on what's left over, kind of like a photocopy of a photocopy. The gap just gets wider and wider.
So when you boil it down, this trend creates at least 4 huge risks for all of us. First, it privatizes knowledge. Second, it creates what's called grounding opacity. That just means we have no idea how these systems are making decisions. We have to blindly trust that Grok's secret algorithm for what's a reputable source is a good one. This, of course, can lead to narrative polarization, where your Google answer and my XAI answer are based on completely different sets of facts. And finally, these massive, valuable private libraries become giant, juicy targets for hackers.
Okay, that sounds pretty scary, right? So what's the solution? How do we get all the amazing benefits of this technology without completely splintering our shared sense of reality?
Well, the answer isn't to hit the brakes on the technology. The answer is to demand accountability. We need governance that lets us look under the hood. It's not enough to just see the AI's final answer. We need to be able to audit the whole process, to see the sources it used, and, crucially, understand the logic it applied to piece those facts together. We need transparency.
And that leaves us with the final massive question. This isn't science fiction, this is happening right now. As these powerful, private, and often opaque versions of truth become the main way we get information, whose job is it to guard that common ground we all stand on? Who is responsible for protecting our shared reality? That's the challenge that's sitting right in front of all of us.